My last couple videos, I showed y'all how to add and subtract decimals. This week, our videos are going to be on multiplying and dividing decimals. This is very similar to how we multiplied and divided multi-digit whole numbers. The only difference is there's a decimal within the numbers. So let's get started. The first thing though I want to say about multiplying and dividing decimals is the difference between that and adding and subtracting decimals is the decimal point does not have to be lined up. When we multiply or divide, our place values do not have to be lined up to be able to do the math. So don't focus on lining up the decimal points whenever we are multiplying or dividing decimals, because you will get the wrong answer if you do line them up. I know it's confusing compared to adding and subtracting, but we will just literally work it the same way as if we were multiplying multi-digit whole numbers. Okay, so the first problem I want to do, pause, because I forgot to say this also. I'm doing this on the board, so that means you're going to need a clean sheet of paper and a pencil to do this work with me. Okay, these are going to be kind of like your math notes to help you whenever you do your independent practice right after this. Okay, now back to what I was doing. All right, so the first problem I'm going to do, so this is number 1, is going to be 16 times 3 2/10. You see how I did not worry about lining them up by the decimal point? Remember, that's not important when it comes to multiplication and division. Please remember that. All right, so now I'm going to work this as if this is a normal multiplication problem. I'm going to ignore the decimal point for right now. I'm going to box the number in the ones place, or in this case, the tenths place, to show that, okay, this is going to be the first number that I'm going to multiply 16 by. 6 times 2 is 12. Put my 2. Carry my 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And then 2 plus 1 is 3. I don't have any other numbers that need to be multiplied by 2. So I'm going to move on to my next number. Remember, my next step is to mark out any numbers I carried or any numbers I don't need anymore. Now, again, this is just like how we multiplied multi-digit whole numbers. I cannot move on and multiply the 16 by the 3 just yet until I put a place value holder down here. So remember, I need to put a 0 underneath the 2 before I can move on to multiplying. That's a very important step. If you do not do that step, you will get the answer wrong. So make sure you put that place value holder there before you move on. All right, so now I can multiply 16 by 3. 6 times 3 is 18. I'll put my 8, carry my 1. 1 times 3 is 3, and 3 plus 1 is 4. I don't have to multiply any other digits by 3, so now I'm just going to add these two products together. 2 plus 0 is 2. 3 plus 8 is 11. I'll put my 1, carry the other 1, and then 1 plus 4 is 5. Now, we are done solving. However, we are not done with our answer because in our problem, we have a decimal point. So if we are working with a decimal point, then that means there has to be a decimal point somewhere in our answer. Now, the way we do this is we do not just bring the decimal point down when it comes to multiplying. How we figure out where the decimal point goes when we multiply is we look at the problems. I want to write to the side I'm going to write how many digits are behind the decimal with each number. So over here, I don't have a decimal point in 16, or at least I don't have one present. So I put 0 because there's 0 digits behind a decimal point. And I'm going to look at 3.2. 3.2 has 1 digit behind the decimal point. I'll add these together, so I get 1. This 1 tells me how many digits need to be behind the decimal point in my answer. So since there's 1 digit behind the decimal point in the entire problem, then that means my decimal point is going to go right here.
All 7th grade core teachers, please meet in Ms. Nelson's room. All 7th grade core teachers, please meet in Ms. Nelson's room. Thank you.
So our answer is 51 2/10. You're going to do another one like this. All right? Another one. All right, so this is number 2. Let's say we have 135 times 6.2. Remember, I don't have to line up the decimal points when I am multiplying. I'm going to box the first number I'm going to multiply 135 by, so that's 2. And then now I'm just going to multiply. 5 times 2 is 10, 10. I'll put my 0, carry my 1. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. And then 1 times 2 is 2. I don't have any other numbers to multiply by 2, so I'm going to move on to the next place value and mark out the numbers I don't need anymore. And then, a very important step, put my place value holder to show that I'm now moving on to the next place value. So now that I have done that, I can multiply 135 by 6. 5 times 6 is 30. I'll put my 0, carry my 3. 3 times 6 is 18. 18 plus 3 is 21. I'll put my 1, carry my 2. 1 times 6 is 6, and then 6 plus 2 is 8. I don't have any other numbers that need to be multiplied by 6, so I am done solving for each individual place value. So now I'm going to add the products together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 0 is 7. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then 8 plus nothing is 8. I'm done solving, but I'm not done with my answer because I was working with a decimal. So remember, if there's a decimal point in our problem, there's going to be one in our answer. So I need to look at each individual number and see how many digits are behind the decimal point for each number, because that's going to tell me how many numbers are behind the decimal point in my answer. So if I look at 135 doesn't have a visible decimal, so I'm just going to put 0 because there's not a number behind it. But then when I look at 6 2/10, there is 1 digit behind the decimal point, so I'm going to put 1, add those together, and that tells me that in my answer, I only need 1 number behind the decimal point. So it will go right here in front of the 0. So our answer is 837 and 0/10. All right, so now Now that we worked with multiplying by a decimal with one number behind the decimal point, we're going to move on and to multiply numbers with two numbers behind the decimal point.